Hey everyone, welcome to the Forever Young podcast, where we meet with anti-aging, longevity, and regen industry experts to unlock the secrets of staying forever young. This podcast is sponsored by Harper Media. If you're interested in our solutions to grow and scale your business and stand out strong against your competitors, comment growth in the comments section or visit our website at theharpermedia.com. Now, let's start the show. We have with us today Sam Tejada, founder and CEO of Liquivida. Sam is a former firefighter-paramedic who revolutionized wellness with IV therapy, hormone replacement, and aesthetic treatments. His vision for accessible preventative healthcare has grown Liquivida into a multi-million-dollar franchise, empowering vibrant living nationwide. Sam, welcome to the show.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. So let's dive into things. Can you tell us what sparked your interest in IV therapy and how you got started in the industry?
So I actually started in the industry on my days off from the fire department. So, when you're a firefighter, you work 24 hours on and you're off for 48 hours. So most firefighters, they supplement their income by doing some kind of side hustle on the days off from the fire department. So one of the things that I really noticed when I was working at the fire department was that I was part of this broken medical system. What do I mean by that? So this broken medical system is just a system that puts people through this vicious spiral down the drain. Where eventually, what I was seeing, being part of this municipality where you respond to these 911 these emergency calls, I'm the one who goes to this person's house if they call once, twice, 10 times, 20 times, from the time that they got a stub toe all the way until somebody goes into cardiac arrest. I was the one responding. So I got a little bit of the behind the scenes of what's happening in our broken medical system. Truly what's happening is that we do what's called Band-Aid medicine, where it's all focused on sick care, where what we do is when someone, say, gets sick, we put a Band-Aid by giving them a little pill that subsidizes the symptoms, but we never fix the root cause or educate them on how to actually take care of themselves. So I started seeing this year after year. Mind you, I did it for 12 years. So I saw people from the first time they called 911 all the way until the time that they're calling 911 when they're in cardiac arrest, right? Their family members are calling because the person is unconscious, heart stop. And I told myself, I says, you know what? I can't be a product to this problem, right? I just can't do that anymore. I have to take a proactive approach so people could take a proactive approach to the health and wellness. And that's where early on I decided to get involved more in the functional medicine space that takes more of that proactive preventative approach to your health and wellness versus this reactive medicine that we're so used to.
And it's interesting you brought that up because I have a friend from Germany who lived in the States for a year, and I asked him what's different about the United States than Germany or other parts of Europe. And he mentioned healthcare as one of the things that was different. He told me in Germany, they focus on fixing the issue, fixing the root cause of the illness, but in America, they just fix what was it? The conditions like the
The symptoms.
affects the thank you. That's the word I'm looking for. They fix the symptoms. They don't actually fix the root issue. What do you think caused this kind of change in this country to only focus on the symptoms when the rest of the first world countries are focusing on fixing the actual issue?
Look, your friend is absolutely right. And when it comes to the countries in Europe, Germany is far, far in advance when it comes to medical treatments versus a lot of other countries, alongside with Switzerland. They're one of the few countries on this globe that take more of that proactive approach. And when they do treat someone who is sick with some kind of autoimmune issue, cancer, they focus on figuring out what the root cause of the issue is, not just go ahead and treat those symptoms, right? Like if I'm having a headache, it's very easy to take an ibuprofen or, a Tylenol or something like that. That's going to help alleviate that pain that I'm having. But what caused that headache? Is it me being dehydrated that caused that? Because if that is the issue, then, well, I got to drink some more water. So here in the United States, what ended up happening, and this was about 100 years ago, is you have the big pharmaceutical companies, and then you got the big food companies that have created this problem. They want to keep people sick, right? It's all a corrupt system that comes down to the dollars of what people are putting in their pocket. You go way back, right? The big tobacco companies, the cigarette companies, where they had all of their lobbyists, fighting for the tobacco to be legalized and all that other stuff. And at the point in time things started to shut down, a lot of these tobacco companies, and this is all history, you could research it, these tobacco companies started buying into the food companies, and they took all their lobbyists, right, that were fighting on the tobacco side, where the lobbyists started being the ones, going out there to pass certain things with the FDA and whatnot. And this is why right now we got this big movement, Make America Healthy Again. That's happening with RFK Jr. And these are things that they're exposing, a lot of this corruption. When you look at here in the United States, our food, right? They allow 10,000 different chemicals that are harmful, extremely harmful to your health. They allow that in our food. You go to these other countries like in Europe, 400 chemicals that are allowed in, additives that are allowed into the food. And these are natural, healthy additives. So until we start addressing some of these issues with the food, the environment, with the pharmaceutical companies, we're never going to fix this issue. But that's one of the things that I'm a big part of, is making sure that number one, we build that awareness. And then number two, that we focus on treatments that are actually going to make people well, not more sick.
Aren't they also working on outlawing this type of red dye that causes cancer too in the food?
Yeah, the red 40. And they put that in everything. I mean, you start reading the back of a lot of this packaged food, you see the red 40 everywhere. And these are cancer causing chemicals that are being put in your food. And it's not that it's going to give you cancer overnight, right? But the more you expose yourself to it over and over, what happens is these toxic chemicals, they'll bind to your genes in your body and will cause what's called a gene expression change. Let me give you an example of that. So we have tons of different genes in our body, right? These cells in our body. We all have what are called tumor suppressing genes that should always be on, not off. So what happens is if a tumor starts to develop in your body, the tumor suppressing genes, they're there to help suppress that tumor from developing, right? Because if it develops, it'll grow into this cancerous tumor, and then you could potentially die. So what ends up happening is if a toxin gets stuck to the membrane of that gene, right, it can turn that gene off. And then what happens is that tumor will develop and become a cancer. So that happens with all different kinds of genes in your body. When these toxins go in there, they can turn the expression off. And they can, at that point, you can have autoimmune issues develop. You can have neurological issues like Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's develop from it. So these toxins is really what's harming people. It's really what's causing insulin resistance. It's causing other issues with inflammation, a lot of oxidative stress inside of the body. And that's the first step we have to take. And if we educate people one person at a time to learn how to live a healthier life, because it's not about what you take. It's not about what you supplement yourself with. It's sometimes more of what you say no to, right? The things that you have to stay away from, because then that's how you optimize your health.
Do you have hope or think that this administration will make positive changes to the way food's produced in the States and regulated?
Absolutely. It's already happening. I'm a big part of this whole Maha movement. I participate, I interview a lot of the people that are part of it. But yeah, we're seeing something that I didn't think I was actually going to see anytime soon. And a lot of the old timers, a lot of the doctors that have known the OGs of the industry, right? These guys that are in their 70s, 80s, they didn't think that they would even see it in their lifetime. And we're actually seeing this stuff happen. People are being held accountable. Pharmaceutical companies are being held accountable. The food companies are being held accountable. And, the sad thing, Hayden, is, the fact that this is under the Trump administration, it gets a very bad rep from 50% of the population, right? And this is something that, I was just on a phone call with the main reporters of NBC, which is a Democratic news station, right? And one of the things when they reached out, they said, Sam, we're really trying to build a bridge between NBC and the whole Make America Healthy Again movement. And I love that. When I heard that, I says, this is exactly where it needs to go. This needs to be nonpartisan. It doesn't matter if you're on the left or the right. At the end of the day, we all got to be healthy. Health is important to everybody. So you answer your question. Yes, there's things that are already changing, and there's going to be a lot more change to come.
That's good. I was really worried when this administration took over, to be honest with you, but I'm happy to hear that some positive change is coming with the way that our food's produced and regulated. So that's great to hear.
Yeah. Hey, Hayden, I mean, you got to think about it, man. You know, I remember as a kid, I'm from Dominican Republic, by the way, and my grandmother's both side. If you were getting sick when I was a kid, there was no Robitussin or anything like that. It was like they'd go and get a bunch of herbs and a little honey, a little lemon, and they make a tea to make you, and they get rid of it. But when I was younger, when we would eat fruits and vegetables, we called them fruits and vegetables. Now all of a sudden we got a label that we have to go after. It has to be organic. Why can't it just be a vegetable? Why does it have to be an organic vegetable? It's that our food has been manipulated so much that now we have to have identifiers of what's not been messed around with versus what's supposed to be just a vegetable.
And do you think a health insurance agencies also have a part to play in how the healthcare system has been set up and not in people's favor in this country?
Absolutely, 100%. And I'll speak on that from firsthand, from working in the fire department. So when I was in the fire department, they came out, down here in South Florida, everybody's duly trained as a firefighter-paramedic. So we run all the EMS calls. And when I was in the fire department, they came out with this new program for paramedics called community paramedicine. I don't know what this is. I started looking into it. So community paramedicine are paramedics that they give them this little SUV, and they go visit the patients that were at the hospital. They go check their blood pressure, make sure they're taking their medication. But the further I started looking into it, and I had a few buddies that started working with the hospital systems because the hospitals were the ones that implemented this. So I started really talking to some of the guys that were doing it, and they said, "Sam, this is very awkward, but Medicare, Medicaid, they only pay out the hospital if the patient hasn't been there for X amount of days, right? Because they only cover like 10 days of hospital, and then the 30, 40 days. I don't know the exact time frame, but there has to be a certain time frame from the last time they were at the hospital for the insurance to pay out. So a lot of these guys a lot of these paramedics that I worked with that were doing the community paramedicine, the hospitals were paying them to go to make sure that this patient was kept out of the hospital, right? And for me, that's unacceptable. You know, Obviously they paint a different picture of what it is, but actually understanding what's going internally with this program, for me, I'm not okay with that. And the reason why I became a firefighter paramedic is that my God given purpose was to help people in the time of need. So at the point in time that we're playing around with my God given purpose, I got a problem with that. So the insurance companies, you know, and the hospitals are a big problem behind this. At the end of the day, they're a business. They want to be profitable. This is not the Mother Teresa Foundation, what they're running. So they let greed and corruption go into play.
All right, so let's talk about Liquivida again. How did you launch and expand Liquivida over the years?
Yeah, so Liquivida is a company that I started with $500 in my back pocket. I haven't taken a dime from anybody since I started it. And it was one of those things, since day one, I've always been bootstrapped. Even today, I'm still bootstrapped, even though it's a multi-million-dollar company and growing nationwide. It's it's something where I just continue to invest a lot of the money that we make back into the company. So, there's not like a quick, tremendous expansion like if I had someone inject millions of dollars into it. But I would say the biggest thing that contributed to the success of Liquivida and the growth of Liquivida is relationships. It's me not being transactional and truly building strong relationships with my employees, my customers, my vendors, and anybody else that I've come in contact with. Those relationships, when you're able to cultivate those relationships, they become bigger and greater things. One of my first customers, Yadek Tadla, that people see me online, I fly with him on his private jet. He was one of my first customers at Liquivida. And he was a customer and he saw my journey. I used to go to his house. one employee in this company. It was just me. So I'd go to his house and do the IV drips on him, as a concierge service. And we would talk. And he just saw the energy and the vibe that I had as an entrepreneur, as a young entrepreneur. I was 26 years old at that time. And eventually, he loved, the conversations we were having. And we would go out to lunch periodically. And he would give me some fantastic pointers where it got to a certain point where he became my business mentor. He went from customer to business mentor, where now, fast forward 12 years later, he's one of my closest friends. We're now, I hang out with him. And this is a guy who's a real estate billionaire who started from nothing, who came from Poland and became very successful from same thing, not being transactional, building relationships, and really thinking about other people first before just thinking about filling up your pockets.
What are some of the challenges that you face over the years in growing and scaling your business?
When you're growing and scaling your business and you're hiring people, employees is not the easiest thing to deal with. It's one of those things I said before, you got to build strong relationships. I'm a visionary. I'm not necessarily the guy who's executing and making the vision become into reality. So I have to find people that can really understand the vision of the founder, of myself, and be able to make it into reality. So that's not the easiest thing to do. I also have a lot of different partners that I partnered up with early on. And sometimes you have great partners at the beginning, and then eventually you outgrow your partners, because the vision and the mindset are completely different. So I've gone through some of those roller coasters as well too, with different partnerships that have gone south, that we've had our differences. So, you have to figure out how to exit and terminate that relationship. So those are challenges, but I will say one thing, that when you do have those challenges, those are the challenges that make you bigger, stronger, and better, right? And those are things that you're never going to learn through formal education. This is not, these type of issues that appear is not something you're going to learn through school. This is something through actual life experience, through business experience, and this is what creates that value for you as a business owner as you continue to grow.
Are there any challenges that you're facing today in your operations?
Yeah, so I've hit quite a few challenges recently. I've had big pharma sue me. I've had lawsuits. I have a very strong voice, a loud voice. I'm on the news almost every single week, so I talk about a lot of the issues that are happening. And some people don't like it, but I'm going to expose the truth. Whatever's going to take care of the people. One of the other things, that I can't say everybody likes it, but I was born in Dominican Republic. My two doctors, actually right here, I was just looking at this magazine. My two partners, Dr. Davis and Dr. Haywood, they're doctors. We're one of the few companies that are minority driven, that are minority owned and minority driven. So I have a personal goal, is to bring a lot of these alternative treatments to the Black and brown community. Well, unfortunately, we haven't had access to this type of medical treatments, these type of services and modalities. And in all reality, it's not fair. Today, I was on social media and looking at the Make America Healthy Again movement, and looking at what they're doing at the White House. A lot of these big influencers, a lot of these doctors, there's no Black and brown people. So what happens with Sam when he sees that? I reach out to them. They all know who I am. So why are none of us there? There's a huge number in population that needs health as well too. So that's something that I'm very passionate about, regardless if people like it or not. I think the health and wellness side needs to be for everybody.
I'm glad you're doing that too. So, Liquivida also has a franchise model. Can you tell us more about that and what states you've expanded to and what your franchise model looks like?
Yeah. So the reason we decided to franchise is that early on, some people, when they get into business, they can either go two different routes. They could either have corporately owned and managed stores where basically everything's owned by corporate, or you can go into the franchise vertical and actually start selling the business opportunities. And early on, when I started Liquivida, I was getting a lot of people knocking at the door, seeing how they can get involved and potentially open up their own wellness clinic or med spa. And that's where once I had like a handful of people reaching out, seeing if there's an opportunity for them to buy into the Liquivita brand and have their own, wellness center, med spa. That's why I said, you know what? I don't want to just do this by myself. I don't want all these corporately owned and managed locations. We're working on a movement. People want to be a part of it. So if I can bring, hundreds, if not thousands of people together collectively on the business side and really grow this business, this is going to give us a greater opportunity to do what my ultimate mission is and bring health and wellness to the masses. So, that's why I decided to actually start franchising and then give, these other people that want to invest their money into this sector the opportunity to actually open up their own Liquivida.
How's it been going so far?
It's been going good. You do hit your challenges. One thing I say about franchising, it is a whole nother world when it comes to business. Everything's different. The accounting's different. What you can say and do is different. You're regulated at the federal level. You're heavily audited. So it is a learning curve. Even if you're a successful entrepreneur, when you decide to go into franchising, you're learning business completely over again, pretty much. So you do hit your challenges. At the same time, you're dealing with a lot of personalities, different personas. You're dealing with people that have had success in other businesses where sometimes they think their way is better. So it's one of those things that you have to learn how to work with your franchisees, create committees. So it's not just one person, but other people that are putting their opinions collectively together and voting on it. But overall, it's been very fruitful. It's been a learning experience throughout the process, and most importantly, it's allowed me to do what I love best, is help people.
Has it been a rewarding experience helping people build their own business and become successful at it?
It's rewarding. It's rewarding as long as they're willing to listen and follow the process. And no different than my parents would always say, it's like parenting it's fun as long as your kids are listening, right? But the kids that are very hard headed and they don't listen and they go completely against their parents and rebel every single time.
I
And
was
I was one of those at a certain point in time. Same thing with franchising. Sometimes you're dealing with a franchisee who thinks he knows better than the actual franchisor, who's developed the system that they bought into. In my word of advice to anyone who's looking to franchise is, regardless what franchise system you're going to buy into, you're buying into the franchise system for a reason. You're buying in because they've figured things out. They've spent the money to fall on their butt and get back up and learn what not to spend their money on. So follow the process. Follow the process is extremely important if you're going to go into a franchise system. If you're not going to follow the process, you're better off just doing it all on your own.
As a franchise owner, when you meet with potential franchisees, what are some different traits or characteristics that you look for in them that are keys to, hey, I think this person's going to be successful?
In our line of work, if I have a potential franchise prospect that's interested in investing into a Liquivida franchise, the first thing I look for is someone who's not looking to just put their money into something to collect a check. That's not the business that I'm in. This is a business that is very involved. You have to be an operator owner. You're going to have to invest the time. If not, your business, your franchise location will not be successful. And I say that to them when they come tour the facility and go through Discovery Day. I'm very clear about that right from the start. So as long as I have a franchisee that's going to put in the time, energy, and effort into the franchise location, that's the first step. That allows me to actually identify a true candidate versus not a true candidate. So someone who is a team player, someone who has some history under their belt of building teams, leading teams, that's important as well too.
So when I visited your website, I was really impressed that you offer so many different services. Can you describe some of the different treatments you provide?
Yeah, so our customers that come into Liquivida, we call them clients, we put them through what's called the Vida Journey. So the Vida Journey consists of 5 different divisions. You can call them 5 pillars if you like. So we have our wellness side, which our wellness side basically is, our wellness side focuses on comprehensive blood work, doing a lot of different diagnostics like body composition analysis. We're doing the IV drips, hormone replacement therapy. All of that falls under that wellness umbrella. Then we have our medical weight loss division, where we do medically supervised weight loss programs, which those consist of nutrition, exercise, supplementation, and then also some of the peptide therapies. Then we have our medical aesthetics division, where we're utilizing some of the things that people have heard, like Botox, the neurotoxins, and also dermal fillers for loss of volume. We're also doing the different facials and peels that our estheticians do that are clinically grade type of procedures. Then our fourth division is our regenerative medicine division. So our regenerative medicine division, we're dealing with people that have certain injuries, shoulder pain, knee pain. We're using stem cell derived products and peptides to help regenerate that tissue. And then our last division is our sexual health division, where we're utilizing different technologies for both males and females to enhance their sex life. For people that experience erectile dysfunction, female sexual hypodesire, or just someone that wants to have better performance, right? For a guy who wants to be longer, stronger, last longer in bed as well too. These are things that we have different technologies that we utilize, and then also certain peptides and medications as well. So ultimately, when someone has the ability to participate in all five divisions, that is our client that participates in the Vida Journey, and we're optimizing their health to the max.
So you started as an IV clinic. What encouraged you to diversify the different types of services that you offer?
So that's actually what led us to create the Vida Journey. So when I started the IV portion of the business, right, which was the first part of the business, the way I started that was I actually partnered up with a doctor that already had a beautiful wellness center called East West Physicians. So this doctor, Dr. Newman, he was a chiropractor by trade. In his facility, he was mixing Eastern and Western medicine together, but he had a bunch of different things in there. He was doing hormone optimization, he was doing chiropractic, physical therapy, hydroclonic therapy, acupuncture, massage therapy. He had a medical doctor there doing other procedures, doing the aesthetics, the Botox, the fillers. And one thing that I learned when we started offering IV therapy at the clinic through my division that I launched in there is that it wasn't just that someone was coming in for IV therapy. This became part of their wellness regimen. So these were the same clients that he was already seeing that were there doing weight loss, hormone therapy, acupuncture. And these people were going through that health journey already. So when I noticed that, I said, with Liquivida, as I expand and open up locations out of this location that I just have this small room doing IV therapy, I know what these people are looking for. I have the proven model here. So if I want the IV therapy to be successful, I can't just depend on IV therapy, right? There's got to be more to it. People are going to want to get their blood work done. They're going to want to know what kind of new vitamin deficiencies they have. People are going to want to know if there's anything else out of whack. So then that's where us developing the Vida Journey came into play.
And one of the things that you mentioned you work with people on is their sexual wellness. And it's something that I personally noticed not a lot of clinics are offering yet, but more are starting to. And what encouraged you to start offering that as a service at your clinic? And what are different ways that you help people with that issue?
Headquarters is South Florida, Miami, baby. People talk about sex over here. So that's the first thing. So a lot of people, they don't dabble into it. Couple reasons. One, the medical provider doesn't want to deal with the opposite sex. Sometimes it can create issues at home. Significant other doesn't want the female messing around with the guy's penile tissue and vice versa. So there's a little bit of hesitation there. Now, everything that we do is medically based. This is a place of profession. Everyone wants to have a good sex life. It doesn't matter what walk of life you come from. It doesn't matter, your ethnicity background. Like, people want to have good sex. And this is all ages. I mean, we have people that come in for sexual health in their 80s, right? So people are active. So when people start having issues with their sex life, this causes all kinds of other issues. This causes mental issues, right? Depression, anxiety. This causes issues in your relationship with your significant other. People get divorced over this stuff. So not only that, but when we're actually dealing with someone's health, when someone has issues with their sexual health, that identifies that they might be having other issues with systems in their body, meaning hormone imbalances, right? It could be an issue with low testosterone. right? If you're having issues with libido, and I want to define the difference between like something with like erectile dysfunction versus libido, decreased libido. Erectile dysfunction in a male is the decrease in blood flow to the penile tissue, which is usually related to some kind of other problem they're having cardiovascular wise, right? It could be calcium or plaque buildup in the veins and arteries that's preventing the blood flow. And this is why they take like a Cialis or Viagra to increase the blood flow temporarily, to the penile tissue. But libido is the actual desire of sex, the thought of sex, right? So these are different issues we're dealing with. And something like a Cialis and Viagra is not going to fix the libido issue. So for us, when someone's having a sexual health issue, that gives us the opportunity to actually take a deeper dive under the hood to figure out, well, why are they having the sexual health issue? Because for some people, and I'm going to stick here with talking about men, if they're having erectile dysfunction, a lot of these individuals, these candidates for sexual health, are actually having cardiovascular issues. And sometimes because of their sexual health problems that they're having, we identify cardiovascular disease issues with the patient early on, and then we can actually fix those things.
Could there be a case where a gentleman gets erectile dysfunction pills and he's able to get aroused, he's able to get an erection, but he has a low libido, so he doesn't really have a desire to do anything with it? Is that possible?
Yeah, it is possible. At that point, then there's other things that they're doing to get aroused, things like a lot of foreplay and things to try to get them in that mood. But yes, that is definitely possible. And with someone like that, usually the decrease in libido, both in males and female, is a low level of testosterone. So when we identify that and looking at all their other hormone levels, everything from estrogen, thyroid, luteinizing hormones, FSH, looking at all of these other hormones, we could actually target what the issue is. And it's actually a fairly quick fix. I don't want to say it's overnight, but within weeks, we can start getting that libido back for sure.
Awesome. So hormone therapy is the answer, one of the many answers or solutions to getting back your libido.
Absolutely.
So have you ever noticed any stigma or anything that comes with this kind of treatment or with people even talking about sexual wellness and what they're going through?
Yeah, a lot of people are scared to talk about it publicly, which is understandable why. It's a very intimate topic to cover about oneself. But there are a lot of other people out there that are very open to talk about it because they know they can help the next guy or girl with the issue. So, but overall, I think people are becoming more and more open to it, especially the more that we talk about overall health and wellness. So, here in South Florida, we're not getting too much kind of negative stigma behind it. Overall, I think this is something that everyone's looking to have top notch performance when it comes to their sexual health.
All right, so let's dive into IV therapy. It's something you've been doing for a very long time, and I know you've done a number of different treatments. You offer so many services in it. What are some of your favorite IV treatments, and are there any newer ones that might surprise our listeners?
So yeah, there's a variety of IV treatments that are available. The actual foundation of IV therapy came from one IV therapy that was called the Myers cocktail. Dr. John Myers. This is before my time on this planet. Those have some basic nutrients, and when I say nutrients, we're talking about vitamins, minerals, and amino acids. So your body utilizes about 35 different micronutrients, these vitamins, minerals, and amino acids, for it to function on a day-to-day basis. So when it comes to my favorite, I always tell people that you want to have some of these essential nutrients, which vitamin C is extremely important. It helps reduce oxidative stress in the body. It helps build up your immune system. And there's a lot of other benefits like decreasing inflammation as well too with vitamin C. Other nutrients that are extremely important, vitamin D. Unfortunately, that vitamin D is not given intravenously. That's one that we do an intramuscular injection of vitamin D. Vitamin D is the foundation of your different hormones and everything else. So vitamin D3 is actually considered a hormone precursor, and it helps upregulate a lot of your other hormones. It helps upregulate your immune system. So many different benefits from it. Vitamin D is one of those vitamins that you get from the sun, if you're trying to get it naturally. So unfortunately, we live life fully clothed indoors with a roof over our head. So we're not out there getting vitamin D as often as what we should. So we have to supplement it. Vitamin D is one of those vitamins that works off 6 different tumors. It's a very potent nutrients for your hormones, for your immune system, all of that stuff. So, and then when you're talking about the different IV drips, there's other really cool IV drips that are very unique that help enhance your detox pathways. Like one nutrient that's called the glutathione. Glutathione is made up of 3 different amino acids. In glutathione, you naturally produce glutathione in your liver. It helps detoxify your body from a lot of these toxins. And what ends up happening as you age, just like a lot of other levels in your body, it starts to decrease little by little. So supplementing glutathione intravenously or intramuscular will help enhance those detox pathways. So when you're getting exposed to a lot of these toxins in the foods or in environment, we can't get away from all the toxic stuff that's out there. You have to learn how to live around it and do certain things to be able to help detoxify your body by enhancing the detox pathways. So that one is one of my favorites as well too.
I was actually just researching glutathione earlier today. Isn't one of the other effects of it that it also lightens your skin complexion as well?
It does. It does. So that's one that a lot of people call it. It gives you the Kim Kardashian glow. So, but yeah, so glutathione, because it focuses directly on the liver. Your skin is the largest organ of your body, right? And it actually reflects your liver health. So I don't know if you've ever seen this, Hayden, but someone who's drink a copious amount of alcohol for a long period of time throughout their life, they end up getting liver failure and they get a yellow look to their skin, and also the white part of their eyes gets a little yellow. And that's because your liver has a direct reflection on your skin. When your liver you have a fatty liver, you get these liver spots, you'll actually start seeing a lot of the tinea versicolor, which is kind of like almost like bleach spots on the skin. It's a liver issue and it reflects on the skin. So when you enhance the detox pathways, the glutathione specifically, it'll reflect on your skin and you'll get that nice, beautiful, lighter glow to your skin. So a lot of people love the glutathione more for like cosmetic purposes. They even sell a topical glutathione that you can put on your skin. And it clears up your skin too. If you have any of these acne issues or other type of issues, rashes and stuff appearing on your skin, glutathione has been noted to be very beneficial for that as well.
Does it help with hyperpigmentation also?
It does. Now, there's other things that we would recommend for hyperpigmentation when it comes to actual treatments with like one of our medical estheticians. They do certain things like microneedling and other type of treatments that they do for hyperpigmentation.
And speaking of aesthetic treatments, I know that one thing that Liquivida is really big on is holistic health. Can you tell us about how you pair aesthetic treatments with wellness treatments like hormone therapy as well for a more holistic wellness approach?
Yeah. So, one of the things when it comes to medical aesthetics is people walk in through the door to one of our wellness clinics and says, "Oh, I want to get rid of these wrinkles. You know, I want to go ahead and fill in this lost volume on my face." And we can do that. Well, we have the different dermal fillers, we have the Botox, we can do certain facials. But we always tell people we need to take a deep dive inside to figure out why you have so much lost volume. Why are these wrinkles, these fine lines starting to sit in place? Sometimes it's something intracellular, right? Something within your cells of a deficiency you have. And it could be something as simple as you're dehydrated. You're not getting enough water in throughout the day. Maybe you need some IV drips to rehydrate yourself throughout the week. So for us, it's taking more of that holistic approach, doing a lot of this comprehensive blood work that we do to see exactly why you're having these certain effects on your skin or aesthetic wise, and then target those things at the same time as still doing the Botox, the fillers, the facials, the peels, or utilizing some of the lasers for the aesthetic purposes as well too. We want to fix you from the inside out.
One thing I noticed on your profile is you're part of the American IV Association. Can you tell us what that is and your role with it?
Yeah, so the American IV Association was put together by a leading healthcare attorney in our industry, Jeff Cohen. And he put that together because he saw the need in the IV vitamin therapy space for compliance and standardization. So he had that, he put it together with some of his other attorneys in the healthcare space. They had it for about a year and a half to 2 years. And the industry didn't have a full buy-in into it because it was the attorneys owned it. And I was at one of the conferences and I was meeting with a bunch of the other CEOs in the industry, some of my competitors, some of my large competitors. And we were out to lunch, and Jeff Cohen was out to lunch with us as well too. Jeff Cohen and some of the other CEOs, we came up with a great idea. We said, you know what, the industry is growing rapidly. We need this. We should all collectively come together and participate in the association. And part of that is Jeff Cohen decided to put a leadership advisory board together that consists of multiple CEOs in the industry, where this is not biased to anyone. And what they ended up doing is all the different CEOs and Jeff Cohen voted to appoint me as the chairman of the association. Now, one of the things I try to make clear to people is when it comes to the association, I have absolutely no ownership. As a matter of fact, I volunteer all of my time that I put into the American IV Association. That's volunteered. And then on top of that, everyone's organization, including Liquivida, we contribute financially every single month to the association. And we're doing that for the industry, to protect the industry, to really work with a lot of the regulators that are out there that are part of these governing bodies, the different governing boards, like the pharmaceutical boards, the medical boards, people like the FTC, FDA. And we're working very closely with them to educate them on some of the things that we're doing. We've put a scientific advisory board together where we have multiple doctors, and these are people that have doctorates in different facets, doctors that are MDs, DOs. We have doctors that are pharmacists. We have PhD doctors as well, too, that specialize in research. And for us is to really allow everyone to know that there is a safe way to do these IV therapies. And there are protocols, and there's a lot of different benefits that people can gain from IV therapy. So we want to make sure that the regulators, and not just the regulators, but also the consumers, know that we are regulated, we are regulating ourselves, and there's true science behind what we're doing.
That's great. And another organization that you're a part of is the Best Holistic Health magazine. It looks like you're a VIP contributor. Could you tell us more about this publication and your role with it?
Yeah, so Best Holistic Health is a publication that you can find at your local Barnes& and Noble. Some Whole Foods carry it as well too. So I became a contributor, a writer for the magazine. And my goal with that is really to get the message out. Is to get the message about health and wellness out to the masses. But this is one of the reasons why I launched my own podcast as well too. Is when it comes to really educating, especially people in the inner city for where I came from, is a lot of the things that we offer at the clinic, it's not cheap. For people to even sit with one of the doctors, we don't take insurance. It could cost hundreds of dollars, if not thousands of dollars. So for me, it's how am I able to help everybody without having to dive into their pocket? And with the podcast, same thing with the magazine. These are things that people can go online, they can watch, they can listen to it, they can read it free of charge. So that's my ultimate goal, is really to get the message out to the masses, to the people, and make sure people can take care of their health.
What's the name of your podcast and where can people find it?
Yeah, so the podcast is called A Healthy Point of View Podcast. I'm the host of it. And you can find it on all the large streaming platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube. I'm actually in my podcast studio right now. We only do in studio podcast episodes. And we have health and wellness experts that fly in from all over the world to be on the podcast.
Excellent. And last question for you, Sam. With the future of med spas, IV clinics, and regenerative wellness, where do you see the future of these industries going in terms of services they provide and how they're provided?
So I do see that the services are going to become more comprehensive, right? We're going to be focusing on other IV infusions that are specific to detoxifying the body from a lot of these toxins inside of the body. There's a lot of new protocols that are coming out for that. But when it comes to the preventative health and what we're doing in the biohacking space, a lot of these different services and modalities and these different type of regimens that we've created, I see that really becoming not just mainstream, but I see it becoming part of primary care, where this is going to be what primary care doctors are doing with their patients. So it's going to be a bit of a journey. I do think that we have the right people in leadership that are leading the way for this to actually happen. And as long as we stick together, we'll see a lot more of this happening. And it's really, it comes down to one thing. It's us understanding each other and understanding how to best take care of our health.
Yeah, and over the years, I've seen more estheticians inside of dermatology offices. So I've already seen a bit of that crossover. So I hope that does happen with primary care and IV care as well.
And, even a lot of these dermatologists, I had Dr. Shino Bay, who's really big in the aesthetics industry. He's one of the leading teachers. And Dr. Shino Bay, I had him on the podcast, and his big thing is functional aesthetic medicine, which functional aesthetic medicine is not just allowing people to come in and get injected in their face, but taking that step to really figure out what's going to be best for their skin. And he's a dermatologist. So functional aesthetic medicine is him actually doing comprehensive blood work, seeing what type of deficiencies people have at the cellular level, and then targeting those things while they get some of these other aesthetic treatments.
That's excellent. Sam, thank you so much for being here with us today and for educating me a lot about IV care, about the health system in general, among many other things. It was great having you as a guest on the show today.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you. That's all for today's episode of Forever Young, Region Leaders Share Anti-Aging Secrets. Thanks for joining us to uncover the keys to lasting vitality. If you're interested in checking out Liquivida's IV therapy, visit liquivida.com. That's liquivida.com. And also check out Sam's podcast, A Healthy Point of View. You can find the link to his podcast on his website. Don't miss our next episode. Subscribe now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube, and visit theharpermedia.com to explore how we can help your business grow. Stay vibrant, and we'll see you next time.